Lepo pozdravljeni na veganski večerici. Danes imamo v gosteh multimedijsko umetnico in aktivistko Ivano Filip, ki nam bo predstavila svoje delo. V svoji umetniški praksi se usmerja na odnos med ljudmi in živalmi. Njeno delo izhaja iz vizualnih umetnosti, razteza pa se od performansa do videa, besedila in medmedialnosti. Ivana se je k umetniškemu raziskovanju obrnila po študiju ekonomije, začela je s črno-belo fotografijo, nato pa je postopno razširjala svojo prakso v smeri medmedialnosti in aktivistične podstati. Poleg umetniškega ustvarjanja pa redno piše tudi blog. To je bilo to, kar sem na kratko našla o njej in to, kar nam je posredovala sama. Zdaj bom pa besedo prepustila kar njej, da nam sama predstavi svoje delo.
So, hello, good evening. I'll do it in English. Thank you very much, Vesna, for this introduction. I think it's short and very punctual. So, good evening to all of you humans, online and off-site. And thank you for being here and having interest in our work that Ivana Filip will be presenting. We are animals. So thank you, Vesna, and thank you, the Živali Association, for this invitation and for the interest in our work. And I'll try to show you and lead you through several of my works, previous works, and my last artistic research about free roaming cats. When I say we, I like to talk as we animals, as we humans are also human animals. And I took this position to say that I maybe can allow myself to speak and create space in the name of animals. Of course, I'm just a human and I can not imagine their position, but this is my modest role. So I'll share the screen and lead you through the presentation. Just tell me if you can see it. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, this is a showcase of my artistic work. And I would like to point that in my artistic work, I took this position of the holistic, let's say, approach. This means that recently I discovered that I can use this holistic approach also not just in my life, but also in my everyday artistic practice. So everything what I do through my daily life, no matter if it's reading a book or playing with cats or walking around and thinking, it is embedded in my artistic practice. And I see it just as I see the life as holistic and connection between spiritual, physical, and mind body. So as I see my practice as having also these bodies. So before we start to dig in this serious stuff, I would like to create some connection. As we know, we are all in this distance situation, having these long distance conversations and relationships. And in that sense, I would like to start with a simple movement and a simple joy. So as we will speak about humans and animals or non-humans being quite the focus of this presentation, I would like to so As you know, wolf use this howling to show affection. So as you are here being my pack for this short evening, I would like to invite you to howl with me just for 3 times, if you agree. Okay. Nobody will hear you because Zoom doesn't work so perfectly, so probably you will hear only yourself. Okay. And the third time. So we bring the spirits. Okay. Let me see if this is. It seems. So this presentation is constructed in 3 parts. I will share first part about the animals, about myself a little bit, and about animals. The second part will be early works till today. And the third part, artistic research or free-roaming cats. Why free-roaming cats? The structure of the research and what I did or I didn't accomplish. And then you can ask questions. So a little bit about me. Imagine. As I said, or as Vesna introduced me, I previously studied economics, and this influenced my artistic practice enormously. So I started actually to see my practice as sustainable, and as I told you, as a holistic one, to see the sustainable process of the work, the sustainable process of the artistic practice, to see the final circle of these materials and to wonder where these materials go, where do I get them, and what happens with the dissemination of the work. Let's say I like to recycle, upcycle, and reuse things. And in that sense, I'm very fond of ephemeral works. So my prior study of economics influenced me to also think of, let's say, sustainability of these works and where to show them. So I value this situation where I can show work and spread the knowledge that would otherwise, let's say, stay within 4 walls. In my practice, I like to use not just artistic sources, but also different sources, let's say science, anthropology or relationship between humans and non-humans, sociology, psychology, my personal experiences. I will probably not mention everything, but especially I value tacit knowledge. And as we all know in Western society, tacit knowledge, or the knowledge that is not used, especially not in the circles of academies or our schools, is something that I gather from different books or different people, different communities, indigenous communities, and finally from non-humans. I can say that non-humans or non-human animals were my first teachers. So as an artist, I always question what, why, and when. Where does the impulse come to create a work? So I also wondered, where did we start? Where did I meet my animals? In that sense, I can say that Bobby was my first love. And on the left side is not Bobby, but Bobby was my first dog. So when I was still a child, we adopted Bobby, I guess, because I was very small, maybe 2 years old, but I was allergic to dog and cat hair. So if I didn't pass this allergy, I couldn't imagine my life being now. what would I do without animals? So at one point, Bobby had to move from our house or from my yard, and my parents moved him to my grandparents, where they lived in the village. But that was an unfortunate situation because he had some long curly hair, and being on a chain, nobody took care of him. So unfortunately, as I remember, very soon Bobby passed on. And just as I was preparing this presentation, I had a short epiphany, and I first time realized that I feel guilty. I never felt guilty in regards to Bobby, and I realized that maybe because I was allergic, he had to move, of course. And I imagined that Bobby was in charge of this development as an artist. And probably we can see guilt in many areas of our life. And I can say, thank you, guilt, for giving me this thematics. And thank you, Bobby. And the third thing about us, as I said, Bobby was my first love, and how we met and how I started to invite animals in my life as a child. So I grew up with animals. We went every week to the village where my grandparents had farm. So we fed pigs, chickens, horses, we picked eggs. And so it was really a close connection to nature. Because I lived in a small city, we used to go there to the village. And I felt always sad when I would need to go back to my house, because I always wanted to bring some animal and, to adopt a new one. So this is a short introduction to the emotion. And for me, it's impossible to talk about non-human animals, or shortly, animals without emotion. For me, it's not possible to talk about art without emotion. So thank you for your patience. Let's move. Let's move to the work. So Olgica, aka Why Do You Take It So Personal, is the video work from 2015 that I created when I was still living in Amsterdam and studying art. Olgica was a chicken. What happened is this. I returned from vacation, and we were all happy to see each other again. You never know. I noticed, though, there was only one little one, white one, in the backyard. Usually, all 5 of them would come to greet me through the glass kitchen door. They went sick and they died, he said. An instant flash straight into my head. It felt like I'd vomit and pass out in the same moment. He killed them all. Not everything that goes wrong is your fault, said Jakob to me. I used to clean Jakob's house for 2 years. He was a retired psychoanalyst. So Jakob had 5 chickens in his backyard. And the problem was that Jakob went sick. So he started forgetting. And finally, he forgot to feed the chickens. I felt guilty because I went for a vacation and I left a note to my friend who was taking care of Jakob's house. But I forgot to repeat So I was forgetting that he was forgetting. And so on. When I returned, there was only one little white chicken, which I named Olgica. And I tried to be the best possible human and take care of her. The next work, she hears, she feels, then she surrenders, is an ode to a new start, to that significant other, a personal story about a woman who is losing her sight, a visually impaired woman, and her guide dog, between Jacqueline and Nadia. I met Jacqueline also in Amsterdam as I was preparing my final exam, a performance with visually impaired persons and their guide dogs. And as I was developing it and we were getting to know each other, Jacqueline opened to me and she was very kind to tell me their personal story. So it was one afternoon that we walked through the park and she shared it with me. She said, "Before, I used to be scared of going out in the night. Now I have her, and off we go. She's always ready." So as she was losing her sight, she became afraid to go outside. And it took some time for her to get used to Nadia and for Nadia to get used to Jacqueline. And one day she said, it just happened that this beautiful moment, I released this fear and I said, okay, she's ready. I'm ready, and off we go. You know, and it's just amazing, I have to use this word, how people adjust and accept and how non-human animals do the same. It's a beautiful relationship. And here we go from dogs to cats. And I guess here there are some cat people and some dog people, as usually we like to continue this divide. It's not just nature, culture, but it's also animal, cats and dogs. I love cats and I love dogs. But here I dedicated this work to my, I call him Zen cat, Ikso. I was becoming, I would say, a little bit obsessed with cats because I live with cats. I could be obsessed with chickens as well, but I don't have quote unquote, quote them. So I wondered always how they can live so relaxed. Of course, being privileged, or we can say privileged, to live with a good life. So they eat and they relax and they sleep and possibly dream, because I can see these little legs moving, and they eat and they sleep and they cuddle. If they don't want to cuddle, they don't cuddle. If they want, they just come and push you. So I just wondered, can I get into this mode of cat thought, of cat mind, by repeating the action? Of course, the action is not repeating and impersonating the cat, but I use the cat litter, as you can see it here, to create this Zen garden, to imagine what would it be to get rid of this mind, chattering mind, and become, as I perceive, as relaxed as cat. Then I share with you, and I shall keep your heart warm. This is the performance I mentioned before with visually impaired persons and their guide dogs that we performed in Amsterdam. We were getting to know each other for 3 months. And I think the worst situation I will share with you was actually one day we performed it for 5 days in a row. And one day, Case, man, the only man here, he's blind. So we had a choreography that was very simple, and we used to practice it, of course, in different spaces, especially in this one. So I wanted to make as secure situation for them, as comfortable and secure and safe. But one day something went wrong, and Case went all around to the different corner of the room. There were lights, there were stands, there were artworks of different people. So I really went cuckoo, nuts. But I think in that situation, this cat zen garden performance or mindset helped me. I just stood there. I felt secure. I felt safe in a way. I imagine that he knows what he's doing, because it's amazing that he's, going every day outside with his dog, Amalia, and they climb the steps and stairs and up and down. So obviously he's more, comfortable in this situation than I am. This is his territory. So everything went well and nothing happened. So it's beautiful to learn, through these artworks, these collaborations. It's not just to give, but also to receive, because we usually want something. But in this case, I wanted to give people the opportunity to ponder about the accessibility of places, accessibility of spaces for visually impaired persons and for dogs as well. But I received enormously. Okay, let's move to some dog hair. And I can say, I don't like human hair, but I can work with dog hair. So I found this out while I was still studying in my art academy, and there was some kind of uncanny, objective relationship with the hair. Though I love that, though we love dogs, we love fluffiness of animal hair, but there is some kind of rejection of the dead hair. Hair is dead if it's not on an animal. And I use this situation to produce a new work. These flags is a work of 6 objects made of dog hair. I took dog hair from dog salons where they cut the hair of dogs when they make them pretty. So I went there and picked it up. And they are memento for all the unnamed or unknown dogs from shelters, from streets, who possibly will never meet their human or have a home. They are also reminder of the materials we use in our everyday lives, because dog hair is better insulator than sheep hair, which I didn't know either. But apparently people use dog hair as an insulation material in architecture. In Russia, they make clothes or these shoes out of them. So it's very interesting material. Of course, if it's not smelly. So I wash it, but sometimes I just enjoy using the raw hair. Next one, Dog-Wise, force-free PR for humans, which we performed, 3 of us, 3 humans and 2 dogs in several situations. It's a performance of, excuse me, it's a performance inspired by the again, relationship between humans and dogs. I met these two humans in the so-called dog obedience school, but I would rather call it a school where humans learn how to communicate with their dogs, their quote-unquote dog companions. So we use the simple movements like orders like sit, go, and wait for this performance. And again, I used dog hair to create balls from dog hair to mark our territory. Why I call it PR? Well, I call it PR because it's a work that relates to a dog wisdom. And in the end of the performance, I announce the manifesto of dog wisdom. For, let's say, looking to the eyes, you know, it's not all about you. There are others also who think about you. Or just relax, lay back on your back and spread your legs. You know, it's just very simple to rub a little bit in the grass. So we use simple words, as I said, and we also exchange the roles, or I exchange the roles of the one who says these rules and then the one who is obedient. So in some situations, I also like to behave as a dog, or what I imagine behaving as a dog, to be correct. Then the last work of this session is Nothing is Unknown to Imagination. This is the work that was created from my participation in the contest about Bruno Latour's Parliament of Things within the Embassy for the North Sea Association in the Netherlands. I explored what connects ale as an endangered species and humans, and found out that we have similar life cycles. So this is an audio sculpture. We will not hear this audio because it's quite long, and it's a letter to ale. I wrote a letter to imagine my connection with ale. Ale is an endangered species, so I asked, what do you want for us? What can you suggest to us? And some other questions. And in the end, also visitors of the exhibition can write the answers to these questions and place them on the sculpture. Okay. I will take a sip of the water, please. So, as I said, I did artistic research for a year. This artistic research was with free roaming cats in Split in Croatia, where I live at the moment. And it was a 1 year long artistic research that I did for the Master Performing Public Space from Fonte School of Fine and Performing Arts in the Netherlands. We are here in the forest. And now, blue and green we see. Blurry we see. Come closer to see us better. We live together. We, forest, you. We come from you. We put 10 pieces of the musa. We are your cousins. We are you. We are with you. Ka is what we know. Ka nukanchik yachai. Ka is direction of life. Ka purirai kavsai ka. Life is ka. Kavsai ka. We come for us. You come for us, but you do not hunt us. We give respect. We ask for your permission. We hunt. We respect plants. We live from plants. We hunt others. We are hunters. We plant plants who are spirits of animals we are. We eat plants who are spirits of animals we are. It is not I, though it is we. It is strange, but it's not painful. Hukman mi kaman. Ichkai manam nananchu tupa chanankis. We will come together. Men hunt and women plant. We see you, we ask you. We do not offend you. We, me, we. Munaiki. I had a dream last night that I hunted you. You were close to me and you were telling me a story of my birth. You were my mother and my father. We were in the forest, in the leaves, in the sunbeam, deep inside. You tell me a story of my birth. You were me. My whiskers are long and sharp, and they smell earth from your skin. My hair is wet from your hug. You carry me on your back, in your womb. Your belly is swollen with ka. And we drift in the river to catch fish together with our whiskers. Our limbs are floating. So this was a short excerpt from the interspecies communication collection of my stories, or the stories I collected in the interviews and communications with other humans and free roaming cats during this research. And here I imagined that I just come from Matses people. life izhaja. Why free roaming cats? When I had to decide my subject on my theme about the artistic research, I remembered that I came back to Croatia and I moved to Split, and I found the situation, I was shocked because there were many cats in the streets, and some were sick, some were old, some were great, some were cute, some were small, some didn't live. So I wondered, what can I do? I connected with different organizations, but I found out that it is the situation where most of the women, and I say women because I met only women in these organizations that take care of for cats, they invest their own money. So the city doesn't take too much involvement, though they say that cats are property of the city. So in this situation, as an artist, I took this position to work with free roaming cats. And the interesting situation is, while I was thinking about that, I visited one symposium, and there was a guy who lived in this area, and I spoke with him, and he said, yeah, there is a community of free roaming cats where I live. So that's how I was invited in this community. So I felt irritated with the situation. I imagined different solutions, but of course, solutions are not fast, as we know, because they depend on the system. And you cannot adopt all the cats in the world, nor the cats want that. Some, they want just to live freely. So this research had a topic of non-human animal agency. And the title was Human to Free Roaming Cats Coexistence in Split Neighborhood, Spinut, through an interdisciplinary artistic practice. The main question was, how can artistic frames emphasize the non-human animal agency and contribute to more horizontal coexistence? It's very technical, or it sounds technical, but that's the point of the research, to go and be very pragmatic, let's say. So theoretical framework for this research, just to mention four, I'm not going to go deeper into this, but whoever wants can research further, were, of course, literature by Donna Haraway, Jane Bennett, and Bruno Latour. And I used these theories to adapt to my needs, to this research. In this research, I developed two lines to approach this research, this enormous subject. The first line of the research were interspecies communication. And here I used two processes. I used one process of video creations where I would literally go there in the neighborhood and sit in the street, or where these cats live. It's little area, it's not literally just street, but a path next to the trash bins. And I wished that I start to communicate with them, communicate in all verbal and non-verbal physical ways, because I offered myself as an object so they could approach me. Of course, I couldn't push for it, and I didn't want to push for it. And I introduced myself as I would introduce myself to you this evening. And I spoke to myself. Probably people wondered, crazy cat lady again. This is next work coming, I guess, about crazy cat ladies. And on the other occasion, I also communicated in non-verbal ways with these cats. So I wrote these one-on-one dialogues. I studied, this was not an official study, I studied interspecies communication, or some would call it non-verbal, or this each word telepathic communication. So I tried to test it. I tested it with my cats. So I went there in the field, in this research field, and I communicated with the cats. And what came out of these, I would write down just there when I was communicating with them. The second line of the research were utopian experiments. And these utopian experiments were actually experiments where I would go out in the street and test some of my artistic imaginations. I created this utopian imagination where cats and humans were in a perfect idealistic world. And I used cats or cat species as the one ruling this catopia, I titled it. That means that they are not rulers, we are all the same, but there is a wisdom that spreads through this catopia as universal wisdom. So in these utopian experiments, I created 5 manifestos, and I created some participatory interactions. So I collaborated with a few scientists here in Split who are involved in human, non-human relationships, thematics, and with some local citizens. And unfortunately, Corona came and we had to stop these meetings, but eventually I could always mingle and work and collaborate with cats. This is Manifesto of Catopia. I will read just a tiny bit of it. So, Catopia is what some would call contemporary feminism, but we identify with no isms. We believe we are all sentient beings with bodies and voices, and missing any of those limits none of one's rights. We stand for our rights and we roar. We raise voices for those who are silenced by human. We are fair and we dare. Down with anthropocentrism, down with speciesism. And then we continue with Catopia rules. So this exhibition, Office for Free Roaming Cats, was a one-day exhibition which concluded this one-year research. It was placed in this shabby space, in between space, in this area where free roaming cats live. And to say free roaming cats, or a community of free roaming cats with whom I collaborated, is a community of 8 cats. And it's interesting that people who take care of for those cats or who feed those cats gave them names and told me stories about those cats. You know, there is one who is alpha cat, Mitsika. Mitsika is the alpha cat, and she takes care of the community in a way that she is the one who gives obedience lessons to other cats if they fight. There is only one cat who is not neutered. Otherwise, they are all sterilized. And of course, we can talk further about this, whether it is right or not to do that. But these cats are just, you know, both funny in relation to these humans, and they are just there in this area. They live there, and sometimes cats, few of them just go away and then come back when it's feeding time, and few of them, like Żucho, whom you can see here, he's always there. You know, everybody knows Żucho. Žučo is mascota of the gang, and even local men in the bar say, "Hey, Žučo, how are you? Where are you? What are you doing?" So Žučo is really a star. In this exhibition, we tried to gather some donations for food, and it was just a little bit that we collected, and a few people gathered. It was just there in this space that I have to say is neglected, is owned by the Ministry of Croatia, Ministry of Property, and I tried to take permission to use this space, but nobody gave me permission after a few months of writing emails and phone calls, so I just used it. Nobody came and warned me. Maybe it would be better for them to come, and for me as well, because more people would know about these cats and the situation with public space or spaces in Croatia. So, okay, a lot has been said, and I would just like to add something to this research and mention a few concepts that I used in the research. I'm very interested in the concepts of empathy, affect, trust, coexistence, others, public space, and symbiosine. Symbiosine is a term and a concept, and hopefully we all have entered already symbiosine, according to Australian philosopher Glenn Albrecht. He says, if you're reading about symbiosine, you are already there. So as we are experiencing all this shift, I hope that this shift is coming to symbiosine. This research critically questioned concepts of public space and its contemporary deviation due to neoliberal manipulation. So I was interested in the accessibility of this public space to non-human participants or cats. As we know, as Deleuze and Guattari say, there is a strong politics of purification, which has poured into all areas of our lives, especially in public spaces. Public spaces are being purified from those who are not accord to Western image of good citizen. And as we know, free-roaming cats are liminal animals in between wild and domestic animals. And as such, they were being purified from this space, or the space was being purified from them. So this was one of the concepts I also used in this research. Now I would like just to share a few minutes of my upcoming documentary as a result also of this research. And after that, we can have a session with questions.
Lipa malce.
Da, sve su divne.
Ma sve su, svaka je na svoj način lipa. A ja kad joj ne mogu dati život, onda i kad ne mogu se brini, treba je vodi vanka, treba ovo, ovo. A i trošak, ako je bolesna, pa kod veterina.
Je, to je cijelo
2700 mi je mirovina. 2700 radila u kancelariji ekonomske. Evo mi 60 godina ekonomske škole, mature. Meni je 80, a 50 godina bez bubrega.
Dobro se držite. Odlično.
I prošla sam život, ostala bez majke sa godine i 7 mjeseci. 5 domova sam prošla. Bila sam zločesa pa sam batine dobivala, a ja dobijem nada batine, a ja nastavim po svome opet. 5 domova.
Život je očito svakoga malo klepne.
Nekoga, svakoga, ali ja sam naučila to kao dijete.
So this was a very short excerpt, and I hope very soon you will be able to see the whole documentary. Now, just to conclude, as I did this artistic research, of course, it was artistic. So as I gained for certain goals, as I said earlier, I would like just to save, quote unquote, cats, to give them home if they wanted that. But it was an intense process of understanding the situation, the complexity of the situation, the complexity of the of liminal cats, of liminal, free-roaming cats. So I intended to develop a different artistic agency through agency of cats to understand how they shift routines of the neighborhood, how humans are influenced by their presence, and what is it there that they are against of, humans. Because there were some humans who are strictly against cats, and they say, they all should be killed. And there are humans who take care of them. And it's not a pleasant situation to be in between and to listen and to not be judgmental to those who don't like them. So it was a very intense process to develop different strategies of approach and to possibly create new narratives for myself or for future practice, and to share it with different humans, artists or scientists, or in this situation as we are here now. So, as I said, I wanted to adopt cats, but finally I ended up adopting one. So now we are living in community with 3 cats. Okay, my partner says enough for now. I trusted the process, that though I wanted certain goals, I trusted that it will lead me. And it's the same for artistic practice. Usually artists go for artistic product, but as I studied in academy that focused on artistic process, this was also a good way to understand that through these artistic processes, through slower process, much more is developed and gained and exchanged. I also learned how to own my own agency, and that was a really good lesson. I met great humans and great cats, and I continued my exploration into this amazing human, non-human relationships. So we share this world with many. Law should not be centered around man, but around life. We are just one party among all animals, plants, and objects. What if we welcome all things into our parliament? What would be the plight of the planet? The reasoning of a fish? What claims would trees make? And what future would oil see for itself? Bruno Latour, The Parliament of Things. Thank you. Ask me anything. Are you still there?
Hvala, Ivana. Ja, nič, odpiram debato za razna vprašanja.
Da. Evo,
Bomo v slovenščini ali angliščini? V slovenščini? V slovenščini, hrvaščini?
Ako može na engleskom, bojim se da neću razumjeti sve na slovenskom. Ili probajte jedno drugo pa ćemo se sporazumjeti.
So I have a question that came to me now at this last project that you are doing. So I was wondering because how important is autonomy of the animals, in this instance cats, to you? Because I feel it is in some way. So like the autonomy of each individual being, in each individual cat, how do you perceive this, or how important is this to you when you are working with them?
Yes, when I went there for several months. It was for 1 year old, 1 year long research. So as I was going there and meeting them, sometimes it would be the same cat waiting for me. I said waiting because I indeed prepared myself before going there in the field. I would imagine, what if nobody is there? What do I do then? I need something. So I would imagine, and I say, okay, Žučo, can you be there and do some voodoo meditation stuff? As I was going there, I would get more and more and closer to some of them. Of course, not to all of them. There were 8 cats, and there were cats who were just coming occasionally there, that I would only see once. And I developed certain relationship with them. There was one cat, unfortunately, he passed on because he was hit by a car during the research, Kicho. And he and I just clicked. As you say, you click with humans, but you click with beings, I would say. And in this occasion, with cats. So whenever I came there, he was so cuddly. He would sit in my lap and cuddle for hour. And if I would stay 2 hours, he would sit there and cuddle for 2 hours with me. Of course, I was influenced by the stories of people who live there in the neighborhood, whom I met, 2 ladies who take care for cats and feed them, and the guy who introduced me to the community of cats. And they have these stories about the personalities of cats. So they describe them as they would describe humans. So they said, he's like this, and she's as this, he does this, or she does this. So I would note and mark all this, but I was certainly influenced by that. But it's a relationship where I saw them first as a community, but of course in every community there are some relationship or power relationships, who is owning the territory, as who is eating first. So it was like that in this community. And it's hard to, though I know their names, it was I can say short time to get to know them, of course, because I wouldn't just imagine that I can get to know someone in such a short time. So does this answer the question in a way?
Yes, it does. It certainly does. But now I was still wondering, when you are thinking of this through this artistic project, and when you're thinking of animals, do you feel because if we say that so every animal as an individual, they have their inherent value. So each individual their own autonomy, and when you are thinking about how to include them in the artistic process, how do you take care of not breaching this? Now I'm going to not inadvertently use them as a tool for my artistic project. How do you think through this in your head? Because I can imagine this must be quite difficult to balance.
Yes, well, in the beginning I wondered, and also when I collaborate with humans, I always wonder how do I use them, or what is the exchange, what is the power structure in the relationship. And what is embedded in our Western society is this power structure. But when I go there, I also focus on the agency of cats. So I say, if they are not into this relationship, they will just show it, or they will move away from me. I am the one who takes responsibility for my actions, so I will not hurt them. I say, I come in peace. I'm not gonna hurt you. I have some food. Of course, they like food. So if you want, I'm doing this and this, and if you want, you can just share whatever you want. So in that sense, as talking about agency, we have to know that they can decide whether they want to stay or not. In the other sense, if I use them or not in the final product, as you see, it was a short part of the documentary. I used the agency of camera as well. So I pointed the camera. They were there in the bushes. They were just there. I didn't try to move them here or there. I never do that. I just find the situation and I try to adjust to it. And I pointed the camera, and there was this lady who approached because camera was pointed to cats, and she started talking about her life. So there was the agency of cats as well. In this sense, we collaborated. So this is also certain structure. Who has the power? If they wanted, they could move, and probably this lady, nobody would stop because camera was pointed to them. So that was one example. This is always a complex question of use. Especially, I used to do photography before, and I was impressed by documentary photography, and I felt always as the one who uses the other for my benefit. But I don't think this documentary will sell, and if it does, I will give percentage to a non-profit, which I already said in my website. So for non-profit for animals, for cats. Yeah. I hope this is a little bit closer. Anybody else?
Yes, I would like to ask, I'm not familiar with the concept of symbiosine, so if you could explain it a little bit more, and how does it figure in your work and your project?
So the concept of symbiosine is a concept by Australian philosopher Glenn Albrecht, and it was only thanks to this research that I got in relation to the concept. So what he says, and he's written a beautiful book as well about it, Earth Emotions. And he says that this is a new era that comes after Anthropocene. So he says it's a theory, but I would like it to be practically used. So he collaborated with artists also who try to let's say, embody this theory that we are coming as a species, as Gaia, Earth is coming also into the new era. We are coming into the relationship where there is no power from humans over the Earth, over the non-humans, over the whole other species that will share this Earth with. And it is based on the concept of symbiosis. I wondered when we spoke, I wondered how it can be used in practical, how can we use it? So he offers a few tools, like he spoke about recycling, upcycling, constantly indeed analyzing our actions through everyday life, not as I said, not just in my artistic practice, but in my everyday life. What kind of materials do I use? How I use them? What is left behind? How I share them? Do I buy stuff and then use it to produce work and then just trash it? Or I take deeper care of all the process. One thing is also that he said is that if you are reading about symbiocene, you are already in it. So in that sense, it's the utopia, but as who says, every utopia is reachable. You know, you come to one utopia and there is the next one to come. So utopia has certain steps, but each step is a small victory to the next utopia. And in that sense, I was impressed and hooked on from this yearn, you know, to get closer to more empathic, more sustainable reality. Yeah, to say a little bit how it's used in this artistic research, well, I pondered about my final products of art. So in the end, I used ephemeral media just as a video, and I used just writing on a computer, and finally I printed it on paper for a manifesto, but I also wanted it to have more activistic values. So we gathered some food for cats. So in a way, it's a circle, you know, in a circle. I wonder who are my collaborators in the process of this artistic research or in other processes now developing different work, and how this supports this symbiotic relationship with myself and the others. Does this answers the question?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, then I will ask you, so you're presenting your previous works and your current work, and you said at the beginning when we were talking before your presentation that you already have plans for your next work. So what are you planning to do or beginning to work on?
Yeah, I was not say motivated, but I'm very inspired by this relationship, as I told you, and you can see it. You know, living with 3 cat companions, you always get ideas, especially now when they are YouTube is just crowded with cats and dog videos. I mean, cats just rule. So I wanted to go further, one step further into the more than human creativity. Though I collaborated with dogs and here with cats, I wanted to question really the product of the art. So I started collaborating with one of my cats, Tsitsi, and I placed cat litter on a paper. I just spread it out, and she eventually came and she started, you know, moving and rubbing and creating some kind of images with her body. So at some point she would stop and move to the other, and I just left it. And it was interesting that she would rarely, I cannot say because I didn't mark it, but she would rarely go to the previous one. She found this little piles more interesting than the one who were already dispersed. So this is one of the coming projects of creating collaborative paintings with Tsitsi. And I would like to go a step further and collaborate with a psychoanalyst and ask them to give me an analysis of this personality. You know, what kind of artist what type of artist is this? You know, there is art therapy, there is art analysis. So this is a step further, that we find out who did what and what kind of artists we are in this situation. So this is one work. And then the other work is going as well in this direction of choosing animal personas that we send to space. Yeah, there are many ideas, but we can talk on and on about animals.
So with this psychoanalysis you were talking about, you're already planning to make it, and if you are, you will tell this person that the cat did this, or would you just show this to the person and said, please analyze this, this one person did this?
So how they work is, I'm already in contact with one psychoanalyst, and how they work is they work with the person, so they ask questions. So when I explained, my first idea was, yes, to show the work and to get the analysis, but it's not apparently the way that the collaboration works between psychoanalyst and another person. What I need to do is to collaborate with analysis and tell what I want to analyze. So eventually we will find some kind of consensus how to approach the subject, because if they know the other one is cat and they cannot communicate as they communicate with me, that changes the process. And I said, okay, I can communicate with my cat and tell you, but yeah, this science is a little bit rigid. It's not so open. So yeah, so I will find a way to move around it.
Thank you. Does
You're welcome.
anyone,
Thank you.
any questions? Urška.
I just have a short one. Are the artistic institutions, let's say the public ones or the bigger ones, have you noticed that in the past years they have become more interested in exhibiting or showing the artworks that involve the collaboration of animals or the use of animals? Because I think in Slovenia we have seen quite a lot of more in the sense of using the animal for certain shock therapy for viewers or visitors of the museums. Is this also in Croatia, or have you noticed in other parts in Europe?
When you say use animals,
I mean, really use like
in non-ethical ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah.
I've seen that. Well, I lived in Amsterdam for some time, and it's not allowed to use animals in that sense in artistic pieces like that. Well, not in performances, in public spaces. I have seen that there is more space created for this non-human to human collaborations. I think in the last maybe 2, 3 to 5 years, I didn't even know that there was such area when I started. I didn't know about anthrozoology because I come from visual arts, and I didn't use the scientific material previously so much. Just when I entered it, I discovered there are more artists dealing with non-humans as plants, as non-human animals as well. Yes, there is certainly more space created. I am not, as I want to know what I like, what I want to do as I know what I don't want to do. And I'm very sensitive to this, to the situations where animals are used in non-ethical ways. So I don't attend it, I don't watch it, I don't get it. I can't relate to it. Or I can, but in different ways. So I know many artists more in the outside of Croatia, working with the subject. In Croatia, maybe 1-2 artists as well. But there is still, in Croatia, there is quite a few spaces that were open to be more acceptable to this kind of work, because usually art and society puts everything in drawers. So if you work with animals, you are like this kind of artist, or you work with this subject, you're this kind of artist, and there are hot themes one year and there is hot theme next year, and there are trends, we know that also in the arts. So if you are more activistic, it's not really interesting and fun. So we all like to be fun and relaxed, and when you start questioning things, it's not fun anymore, and some doors just close, but eventually some other doors open. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ok. Je v redu, če preklopim na slovenščino? Ja, ne?
Može.
Se mislim, da smo bile kar dolge. Tako da, Ivana, še enkrat najlepša hvala, da si se odzvala povabilo. Mislim, da je bilo pač ful zanimivo, no? Pa da si res naredila en tak pregled neke svoje prakse, pa nek razvoj tudi. Tako da srečno z dokumentarcem, ne?
Hvala.
Pa da bo čim prej končan.
Da ga bomo videli.
Ja. Nič, to je to. Lepo se imejte, pa se vidimo naslednji mesec na naslednje veganske večerice.
Hvala puno još jednom na pozivu. Hvala vam što ste bile ovdje. I evo, nadam se da sam pomaknula malo za životinjice, malo nekako otvorila taj prostor. Mislim, da, što drugo nego jedan korak do drugog.